What's up, everybody? It's Luke James, not the singer. If you're looking to get your music reviewed, you can hit up this email that's right here. But today I'm going to hit you up with my thoughts and opinions on this latest album from Eminem called Music to Be Murdered By. Now, clearly I don't have to do a big intro here because we all know who Eminem is and what he's done, but I will say that over the years he has become a very divisive artist just because his discography hasn't been too consistent. In particular, a lot of people got to talking when he dropped Revival a couple years ago because that is his worst album yet, and even though the follow-up album Kamikaze isn't some of his best work, I still think it was pretty good, man. He kept it short, simple, and to the point. It was somewhat cohesive except for some of those tracks on the end of it, so it was decent, you know what I mean? I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that Revival sucked more than Riley Reid in a Black Scene, so it kind of helps when you drop a really bad album in that sense. It really is hard to go even worse than that. And he didn't with Kamikaze. But now we come to this album right here, and after sitting with it for a couple of days just to be sure how I really felt about it, I can honestly say that this suffers from the same shit that a lot of Eminem albums suffer from. So if you're a diehard Eminem fan, you like pretty much everything he's done, I think you're going to be happy with this. But if you're someone who's kind of fallen off the Eminem train over the past couple of years, and you do consider him to be inconsistent, then you already know what I'm talking about. So just to list off some of the things I am talking about if you don't know, I'm talking about the questionable beats, bad hooks, long-winded verses, and lyricism that can be clever 1 minute, and then the next minute it is just so corny, man. I'm talking about corny like the stuff that your dad says to you, and then he nudges you like, huh? You get that? That's the type of shit that happens on this album over and over and over, and I will be speaking on that as we get into the later part of the review. But I do want to start off with some of the positives here, because I do think the feature-assisted tracks, they're pretty dope, man. They definitely make for some of the better moments on this album. I thought Young M.A.'s drowsy flow worked pretty good on Unaccommodating. This one is just a hazy banger, and it was kind of cool how she started off with that 504 Boys Wobble Wobble flow. That was a New Orleans No Limit classic back in the day, so that was a good look. And Eminem is getting into a lot of stuff in his verse, including saying that he finished MGK and then spitting some bars about the Ariana Grande concert bombing. Now, when Eminem does shit like this, I'm at the point where I don't get outraged or upset or fly off the handle over it. I never really was one of those people when it comes to Eminem because it's just what he does. He just does that shit to get people talking. He's having his fun. It is what it is. But a lot of people are already writing think pieces out there. And you know what? I understand why people will be upset by that. I'm just saying a lot of people, when they're listening to Eminem, it's just what he's gonna do. And then when we come to the MGK thing where he says he finished him, I don't really have a dog in that fight, man, but I've seen a lot of people say that MGK actually won that one. So, you know, you can fight amongst yourselves in the comments section in regards to that, even though it was quite a while ago. But Eminem on this album does mention MGK a couple of times, as well as some other people that he's had issues with, including Lord Jamar and Nick Cannon. So he's doing a bit of name dropping in that sense, like you would expect from him. But to move on, we do get a standout cut with Lock It Up. I think Anderson .Paak and Eminem had great chemistry on here. Eminem worked some really nice flows on this song, as he does throughout much of this album. You're also getting this Dr. Dre production that sounds like his early 2000s work, so as someone who came up loving the Chronic 2001, some of that shit he was doing on Exhibit's Restless album as well, just that era of Dr. Dre production, I like the sound that he had going on here. And then on You Gon' Learn, I think Royce da 5'9" delivers one of the album's strongest performances. This is a track where we're getting some very heavy, dusty drums. Royce is also listed as a production credit on here and some of the other songs as well, so it's cool that he's getting into that. And here they're just rapping about their struggles coming up in poverty. What I really liked about Royce's verse is how he's speaking on trying not to fall victim to his father's shortcomings, you know, how he had battles with various addictions. He certainly talked about that on the Book of Ryan. And he also gets into some black empowerment and excellence bars as well, just speaking on things like separation and reparations in order to help improve the black community, man, whatever can happen to help out. So I like that Royce is spitting a little bit of woke shit on here, man. I'm actually looking forward to hearing his next album, so we'll have to see how that's going to sound. Now, since I did mention Royce, there also is a Slaughterhouse posse cut minus Joe Budden called I Will. This one obviously has the great bars that you would expect, lots of technical skills, fast flows, clever wordplay. I'm not going to sit here and list everything happening because it's just pretty dope in that sense. Didn't think the beat or the hook were that great. This is something that you're going to pick up on a lot with this Eminem album, and I will speak about it more. And Yeah Yeah is the same sort of thing. This is another posse cut. I didn't think the beat on here was tremendous, although I did like that Busta Rhymes sample flip. Again, the hook isn't that great, but the bars are solid, aside from the usual Eminem slip-ups, like middle fingers put 'em high. That's why they call it a bird, because you put it up in the sky. There really is just some lazy bars on this thing. I'm going to get into that more. But thankfully, we got Black Thought on here with a great verse, he just continues to be the most natural and effortless MC, man. The way he glides over the beat, the way he puts his syllables together, like he's not in a rush, he's not cramming shit together just for the sake of it or anything like that. He is buttery smooth with it. So that was certainly one of the highlights on here. But now we are going to get into a bunch of the stuff that I didn't like here, because honestly, there were a lot of negatives to me. This shit just went on and on and on. Once again, it's just a bloated, inconsistent album that I think if he had to cut it down to the best 10 or 11 tracks, this shit probably could have been pretty dope. Probably as good as Kamikaze, maybe even a little bit better in my opinion. But as it is, there are a bunch of tracks here I could have done without. Starting with Those Kind of Nights, this is just an awkward club track where Eminem is working a very goofy rap style, just his cadence, using a little bit of a weird voice there as well, some goofy bars, and Ed Sheeran's cheesy hook isn't much better. This one to me is a complete throwaway. I think it was just very sloppy. I could have done without it. And then with the song Marsh, you're getting this dull-ass piano production, an auto-croon hook that is kind of like him just messing around and having fun, making a joke of it, I guess. But either way, it doesn't sound that great. And more terrible bars, like, it's time to go batshit, like you accidentally ate a Louisville Slugger and crapped it. So, man, when this album gets bad, it gets really bad. Like, there are certainly moments on here where he does have great lines. I'm not going to say it's all bad. There's this Bushwick Bill line on Little Engine where he says that I ball out like Bushwick Bill. I thought that was kind of clever, although this probably has the worst beat on the album. This is just some really chintzy, cartoony shit, and once again, he's being silly. Not a good hook. This comes up a million times on this album, man. Bad beats and bad hooks. Eminem's bane, non-stop. But yeah, man, a lot of the puns and wordplay on this album to me are forced. Like, it feels like if he could have worked some of these ideas in a way that wasn't so in your face and cringy and dad jokey, it possibly could have worked. Because I see what he's doing with some of these bars, but sometimes it just isn't coming across too well. Like when he says, "My eye's a tiger and I'm a survivor." Come on, that's pretty bland. And this one, "Be triumphant, because when I'm looking at my leg I see, bunch of dogs gonna try to dry hump it." So that's one in particular that is the perfect example of forcing some shit, in my opinion. Some people are gonna think that's incredible, but you know what? We could disagree on an Eminem album. It is what it is. You know it's inevitable. That is gonna happen. This one is also the quintessential Skylar Grey track, so there's nothing too new with that one, man. And a lot of the stuff on this album, you have heard from Eminem before a million times already. Like, at this point, I don't know what he can do to make things refreshing, but he ain't doing it here. You're gonna hear him on Never Love Again, once again addressing his past addiction issues. He does do it through the lens of a relationship, which is kind of interesting, but we've been down this road a million times with Eminem. Not really interesting now. And on No Regrets, like I mentioned earlier, he does reflect on some of his beefs that he's had, or words that he's had with artists like Earl Sweatshirt, Tyler the Creator, MGK, and Nick Cannon. Just a track where he's kind of reflecting on his past as well. You got this hazy banger production on there that's decent, but nothing to write home about. One of the tracks that I think is actually one of the better ones. I wouldn't put it as a favorite, but it does have a bit of a nice vibe to it. And then you get the usual Eminem relationship tracks, which I don't like a lot of newer Eminem relationship tracks, man. I think they're usually pretty terrible, to be honest with you. Like Farewell, this one has another terrible hook on it, and the production sounds like something that would have been on Drake's Scorpion album, just the way it bounces along. Really thought this production did not work well with Eminem's style. It was very clumsy. You also get In Too Deep, has a clunky beat, more awful singing, and bars like "Call us Long John Silvers, 'cause we selfish." Like, I get it, man. Everybody has bad bars once in a while, man. Some of my favorite rappers got bars that make me go, oh man, this shit is just not good. That is some dumpster juice with fish bones in it. But the problem is when it's like every couple of bars, like you're listening and the shit's all right, like you're liking some of the stuff he's saying, and then he throws these things out there over and over, just these terrible bars. It is really hard to get into it, man. It just seems like he's really trying to impress us by forcing these puns and wordplay that our dads and uncles would say to us. That's just my opinion, man. I can appreciate a good dad joke once in a while, but when it's like a whole damn album of it, it does get to be a little bit excessive. That's just my opinion. Then we get the song Godzilla. Here he's spitting over some stale DJ Mustardish production. Again, I didn't think this production fit him that well. It's not a terrible song, it's okay. You got a Juice WRLD hook on there that's decent, RIP to Juice WRLD. But again, look at some of these bars. I'm on point like my index is, so all you will ever get is the motherfucking finger, prostate exam, okay, and like a liar's pants, I'm on fire. I mean, come on, man. Can we try a little bit here? He's just really just throwing away some of these bars here. He should have thrown them away in the trash, actually, instead of throwing them on this album. But it is what it is, man. He wanted to give them to us. But, you know, even though his storytelling can be decent at times on some of the storytelling tracks, they're still not very good songs for a lot of the same reasons that I mentioned. I think the song Darkness does have a good message as it's addressing gun violence in the United States and he's telling the story of the Las Vegas shooter. Very cool idea, but the production is very drab, the hook, boring, dull, drab. I understand it is supposed to have sort of a sad feel to it, but it's just one of those songs I would never listen to again, you know what I mean? That's one of my gripes with a lot of Eminem's music recently, is it just doesn't fit any sort of mood to me. Like, he's not giving me shit I want to bang in my car, he's not giving me shit that I want to lay back and chill to, something to vibe with in headphones, he's not giving me stuff for when I'm just, maybe, I don't know, cleaning up around the house or doing some dishes or doing some grown man shit. I'm not getting a lot of that. They're just kind of songs that just don't really deliver a whole lot, although once in a while you do get some technical skills and some great bars throughout here. I'm going to stress that because I'm sure in the comment section people are going to say bars are going over my head. I missed them. I didn't talk about all the good bars. Yes, there is some good technical skill there for sure, but the problem is I want better songs from Eminem, man. I don't know what he has to do at this point to make that happen. Maybe making a shorter project would help, like it kind of helped on Kamikaze, I think. But again, this one is a slog, and I really just had a lot of issues with it. But again, Darkness, cool idea, not a great song. And the same thing with Stepdad, man. This is one where he's telling the story of an abusive father. You already know what I'm going to say, man. I said this so many times already. It has one of the album's cringiest hooks. This hook is just absolutely brutal. Lackluster production on it, and more bad lines, including, "I'm talking euthanasia like kids in Taiwan." Honestly, he says that. Like, you might even remember that from the Ali G skit. So that goes to show you how silly it is. I don't know if he did that as a nod to Ali G. If he did, I can appreciate it a bit more. Probably didn't, though, but yet another bad bar. So at the end of the day, man, I'm going to go with a 2 out of 5. I did think about a 2.5, but the more I listened to this and I looked at the ratio, man, this is a very bad ratio. When I'm rating albums, that is something that I usually take into consideration, among many other things. I like to look at how many tracks there are, how many do I like, how many do I dislike, how bad do I dislike them, how much do I like them. This one only had a couple of tracks that I was like, they're pretty good. I probably won't go out of my way to come back to them, but they're decent. Then it had a bunch of bad songs I thought were terrible. Then some other songs that were just kind of there. So this to me has a bad ratio. For me personally, it's a 2 out of 5. When I rate shit, I'm not telling you this is what it is to your heart. I'm not telling you what to listen to and what to like. Just for me, there's not enough here for me to rate this album high. It has its moments, but the ratio is goddamn terrible. So just like many albums, it's bogged down by filler tracks, very inconsistent, all over the place. You can appreciate his technical skill and his love for hip-hop at this point, because he definitely doesn't have to put an album out. But man, I just feel like I do hear some good things within a bunch of these Eminem albums. I feel like if he could just focus it, make a short album, I don't know, get more like grimy beats on there, maybe work with some of his fucking Griselda artists or some shit. I don't know, I just need to hear something different from Eminem. This style that he's doing isn't working for me, but at the same time, fuck me, man. He's not making music for me, he's making it for you, the Eminem fans and the stands out there who, you know, I've seen a lot of people saying this is a 5 out of 5 and a classic. So if the artist fans are happy, at the end of the day, that's what it is. But you know, I feel like he could make a better album than this. With a more focused effort. But I do want to wrap up by just touching on some of the stuff he said on the Premonition intro track. This one has a bit of a trap banger to it as far as the production goes. I think this is actually one of the better songs as well. But he spits, "They said I'm lyrically amazing, but I have nothing to say. But then when I put out Revival and I had something to say, they said that they hated the Awake Me." And I just want to say the main issue with Revival, I don't think it was so much the topics and stuff he was speaking on, although again, he was rehashing stuff we've heard before. Most of the complaints I had with it, and most of the complaints other people had with it, was just the sound, man. A lot of that poppy rap, terrible hooks, the production was garbage. Those were the problems with Revival. I don't think it was so much about the content, it was more about the sound of it than anything else, in my opinion. He also spits, "Then I would've quit a long motherfucking time ago, bitch shut the fuck up. I should go say that shit to Tech 9 or to Jigga. Nobody said shit about 2 Chainz as long as he's been here, shit." Again, I'm butchering these lines, I'm just reading them, tell you what they're saying. I'm not really spitting them or anything like that. But the difference here is Jay-Z, as he showed on 444, he really evolved and was operating at a high level on that album, man. He showed us a whole other more mature side of Jay. He just was speaking on his relationship in a lot of great detail. 444 to me is some of his best work, and that far into his career it was very impressive. Tech 9, yes, he does get some of the same critiques because he's rappity rap. His albums are often bloated. I don't think anyone knocks his technical skills, but just his albums a lot of the time aren't overly cohesive. That's just my opinion. And as for 2 Chainz, man, a lot of people have given 2 Chainz some shit, man. Of course 2 Chainz has taken some heat since he's come out, but I don't think he's really put on the same level as like a Jay-Z and an Eminem. So some of these lines, some of his complaints, they are a little bit fishy to me, I gotta say. Even on, I think it was on this song as well, he's speaking about how Rolling Stone didn't rate his albums too high. He's complaining about critics. People reviewing his albums, you know, people like me, like, what the fuck do we know? That's fair, man. He has the right to do it, but he's done it so often and so often recently that maybe we can move on from that a bit. Maybe just make a truly great album, then you wouldn't have to worry about having to respond to that type of shit. And the last one is, he says, I wasn't dissing tech. That was not a shot at 2 Chainz or to Jay-Z. They probably feel the same way because lately, instead of us being credited for longevity and being able to keep it up for this long at this level, we get told we'll never be what we were. And I think it's fair to be able to praise someone for their longevity. Like, I think it's cool that Eminem is still going, making music even though he doesn't have to because he loves to do it. I can appreciate that. But yeah, I don't think the music quality has been that great. I can point to Jay-Z once again and say that he really showed with 444 that he could still craft a truly great project. So some of these complaints to me are a little bit hollow. I understand how he feels and where he's coming from. It's the artist's right to clap back at people like me who critique his music heavily. Of course, it's his right. But I don't know, just make a better album. That would be all that I would say. Like, make an album that is tighter and more cohesive. I know Eminem can do it, man. I've heard these flashes on this album and on past albums as well. But just these long-ass bloated albums are not doing it for me. Maybe it is for you. So let me know what you think in the comments section. I know some of you are going to be disappointed that this wasn't a rant, but where this is one of the biggest releases of the year and so early, it's Eminem, I wanted to sit with it a bit more, really flesh out some more of my thoughts and do a long review. So I didn't just want to do a quick rant, although I'm sure you will still see some rants coming up later. So it is what it is. I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. Make sure you let me know how you feel in the comment section down below. And of course, make sure you do that good YouTube and social media stuff where you show me love and you show me lots of it. Thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.